its ritual and routine. I swim, surf, body surf, sail, paddle and splash. If I want to solve a thorny problem in the novel I'm writing, which is regularly, I head to the coast path and stand at the very edge of the land, looking out across the water. I cast my characters onto Borden Rocks, the 2 tiny islands just off St Agnes Head, and leave them there for a while to see what they are made of. Much of life where I live revolves around the sea. On my desk I have a tide clock and a storm glass, and bookmarked on my computer the Magic Seaweed website, which gives a surf forecast for local beaches. I could do without all of these, as there's a far more accurate way of finding out what's going on around the coast. When I collect my children from the local school, I can tell how good the surf is by the number of parents who turn up with salt-streaked hair. One of the other dads squeezes in as much out of his surf as possible and sometimes turns up in the playground in his towel coat. Like in playgrounds across the country, the parents split into their various tribes. Here the surfing parents gravitate towards each other. They exchange notes about which break they've been surfing in between jobs, the early start they made to squeeze in a surf at the end of the day or the dawn patrol. They talk in terms of sea state and board type, how crowded the lineup was, the beaches to which they'll be heading come the weekend. In this surf-heavy community, life is ruled to an extent by the tides and the surf forecast. For many of the kids here, the first stop after the school bell rings is not home but the beach, the car already loaded with wetsuits and boards. On Saturdays, although there is football, cricket and rugby on offer, the Surf Lifesaving Club heaves with the 120 or so children who pile down to the beach to throw themselves into the waves each weekend, with or without boards. They can all identify riptide, know how to duck dive an incoming wave, and at 10 many of them already surf far better than I ever will. They, like my children, Alana and Tom, see the waves as their birthright. I grew up in Stockport, which, as the crow flies, is almost 40 miles to the nearest coastline, not far at all from the most landlocked point in England, just round the corner in Derbyshire. Stockport is a town so ill at ease with water that in the 1970s the council concreted over the River Mersey to make way for the brutalist Mersey shopping centre. The glimpses of the river I remember as we crossed the bridge into town to do the weekly shop were of stacks of jettisoned shopping trolleys sticking out of the brown water, taxed and dumped bikes, and a gaping moor-like hole beneath Asda where the river disappeared, a churning, frothing torrent. I remember clearly the sense of expansion I had on days out to the coast and the corresponding sense of being hemmed in when I was not by the sea. I have Stockport to thank for my own obsession, at least in part. We always want what we don't have, but it's more complex than that. When I celebrate, I turn to the sea. When I need inspiration, too. And when I have needed to grieve, when my life felt upended, the sea's presence comforted me and gave me solace in ways I still find difficult to explain. My earliest memories of the sea are of family holidays in France, of playing games in which I waded into the surf and tried to remain standing stock still as a big set came in, being delighted when I failed, being washed around in the breakers. It was after one of these long games of playing chicken with the waves on a beach in Normandy with my family at the beginning of a glorious summer, after being called out of the water for sandwiches, sifting through the sand, I found a brass shell casing. Later the same day, I found a stone buried in the sand which came apart in my hand to reveal a perfectly preserved fossilized limpet. I lost the shell casing almost immediately. At that age, I couldn't connect that object with the D-Day landings. I wasn't capable of seeing beyond the parasols and windbreaks to war. I'm still not capable of connecting with the fossil, with life turned to rock, with something that lived hundreds of thousands of years ago. I forgot about the bullet casing for years but kept the fossil, and for me it was the beginning of a long-held interest in the things that wash up on the shore, or which are uncovered from the sand by wind and wave. Last year I found another rifle shell casing similar to the one I had found in Normandy, only this one I found 3,600 kilometres further north, on a beach in Svalbard, Norway. My hand saw it before my eyes, and as I picked it up instinctively, the memory